right, we're getting ready to leave anchor here at Long Island and we're going to head back to Georgetown. So I'm going to give you the step-by-step of leaving the anchorage and heading over. I'm going to do some fishing today. I feel good about the fishing. I think today is going to be the day I finally catch a fish. So first things first, let's get some sunscreen going. Yeah. Right in the eye. It's always right where you want it, right there. Shoulders. Get the tattoos so they don't fade any more than necessary. All right, got that step taken care of. Next step, dinghy on board. We got to get the outboard motor off of the dinghy and place it here. Usually it's not too difficult, but whenever you got a little bit of wave action, it can add a little challenge to the mission. All right, the key here is to wait for a little bit of calm so it's not going up and down with the waves.
I cut out these small pieces of wood here just so the pointy end of the bottom of the motor doesn't scratch the dinghy floor or the fiberglass on the sailboat.
Got some big waves coming up. We got big time waves coming up, so yep. Okay, try to wait till the calm period for a second. Okay. Okay. And then get on the boat as soon as possible so you're not thrown over by another wave. All right. Then we'll put it in place on the little motor mount here.
This outboard happens to be one of the lightest you can buy at about 40 pounds. You can imagine how difficult this would be if it was a heavier motor.
Now the fun part again, to get the dinghy onto the deck using the halyard. This time in more wind, this should be fun. And there you have it. That's a nightmare. You probably couldn't see it off screen what I was doing, but once I got it up to a certain point, I couldn't really get it up above these railings, so I took it back here into this opening, and I was able to put each leg, if you will, through the opening and then get it to here and then slide it back. All right, now I'm going to tie it down, and then the next step, which will be getting the anchor up, which, believe it or not, is a lot easier than that. Now some of you might be wondering why I'm putting it up on the deck just for a quick ride of 4 or 5 hours instead of just dragging it behind. I do see a lot of boaters drag their boats behind, especially with short distances. I don't feel comfortable doing that by myself because if something goes wrong, I'm the only person here and I can't deal with multiple things. If something were to happen where I have to hit it in reverse really quickly, and what happens if I run over the line that's dragging, that's pulled the pull line, A number of things I could imagine going wrong with having the dinghy dragging behind, so I just prefer to have everything stowed on the deck for the least possible problems in the trip. All right, final step before we take off. It's already taken a bit longer than I had hoped, so I'm getting a later start. But we have to take up the anchor, so I want to make sure I've got everything in place before we do that, because that's kind of the last, well, that is the last thing, and once we pull up anchor, we're committed to leaving, or we're committed to moving. So I want to make sure at that point everything is good to go. Getting ready to start the engine. Hold on. Hold on. Battery's low. Just had some issues with the starter. Great. But it started. All right. Oh my goodness. I don't know if that was because we had low batteries or the actual starter is going bad. Okay, add one more thing to the list. Lights, navigation, stereo. But luckily it started, so all right. Next step. So should be interesting because the anchor is still getting a lot of stress from the wind, so it's fully extended, which is not a good, it's not really good for pulling up the anchor solo for sure. It makes it quite difficult because you have to keep running back to the helm, hitting the throttle, go forward 10-20 feet, run up front, grab 10 feet of chain, go back to the helm again, do the same process, and the whole time you're getting a lot of stress on the windlass.
Some terminology is necessary here for new boaters. This here is called a windlass, not windless, which would be no wind. A windlass is like a winch that helps bring up the anchor chain. I'll refer to the windlass a few times in the video. So now where were we?
And the whole time you're getting a lot of stress on the windlass. So anyhow, that's what we've got to do. And that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put this on my head here so you can see kind of what I'm doing as a first-person perspective. Let's do it. I'm going to narrate a little as we go. The first step, I'm going to take off the anchor snubber or the anchor bridle. I've talked about this in previous episodes. Really what it is just two ropes that are going to hook onto your front two cleats. Then the other end of the rope is going to be a hook that's going to hook onto your anchor chain. And that's going to take all the pressure off of the windlass whenever the boat is anchored, because you don't want that weight on the windlass. This is just the spinnaker pole I'm going to move out of the way. The hook for my bridle should be a little further down the chain, down into the water a couple of feet, but I've already pulled it up 3 or 4 feet before I started the video. All right, we're going to head forward a little bit. My first objective is really just to get the bridle hook off of the chain so I can get that out of the way. So yeah, there's the bridle. I open the chain locker, remove the fresh water hose, and get things organized. There I'm going to grab the bridle hook. The ropes I'm using are not ideal. You really want thick, some thick nylon ropes that are going to have a little bit of give, a little bit of stretch, and give you a little give while on anchor. I just used some old lines I had on the boat that were heavy duty and in good shape.
and the right length. But anyway, it works for me.
Okay, so we're back at full extension. Gotta move forward again.
Another thing I want to explain is that my windlass is very low powered, so really you can't put much weight on it at all. I've got to pull the entire chain up by hand. I really just use the windlass to kind of organize the chain into the chain locker, and to hold the chain temporarily as I run back and forth from forward to aft. And to be honest, this whole thing may have been easier without a windlass.
Easy does it, easy does it. Y'all, easy does it.
So there I've got a bungee cord on the helm to keep the rudder straight while I'm maneuvering. That way, when I'm running up to the front, I know that the rudder is not going all crazy and turning the boat on me.
Almighty!
When it's windy like this, it gets frustrating for sure. On a calm day, it's much easier. Another thing, people might think it's not organized on the deck there. I've seen a lot worse, and I've had it a lot worse, and actually I know where all those lines and ropes go to. That yellow line, for example, you see is the jack line, which is the safety line that goes all the way from the forward to the aft area where you would clip on if you were underway in the ocean.
Okay, there we go.
Here's a good example. Okay, see how the chain is really slack? I should just be pulling, and worry about the windlass later. But I'm kind of taking it at 3 or 4 feet at a time.
Not good. Not f***ing good.
I probably lost, 10 feet or so of pulling by doing the slow method, which is to allow my windlass. So what I probably could have done is I could have used like a hook that I had on that bridle, and I could have hooked the chain every time I needed to hold it, and then I run back to the cockpit. And then I could have sorted out the chain later with the windlass, but that would have been a bit of an ordeal, so I don't know. I don't think my method was really horrible, but it wasn't ideal. It's just going to take quite a bit more time. But, with solo sailing, it's kind of slow and steady. No need to be in a rush. It's better to do it safely rather than try to rush things. The other thing, so you see those little buttons there that I'm pushing, those are the power, obviously the power of the windlass. In some boats that are a little more fancy, they have remote controls in the cockpit that people can use to push those buttons, except you're in the cockpit. So obviously that would have been great, right? Because I could have held onto the helm, I could have used that remote control, and every time I get slack, I'm pulling up the remote, and I could have done this so easily. But my boat doesn't have that luxury. I don't have a remote control in the cockpit. So I'm running up to the foredeck every time, and I'm trying to get that chain in.
Ah!
like I said, an example of I know where all these ropes and lines go to. That little line right there I just use as a little tie down, so I knew it was there. And I use it to keep this hatch open. I tie a simple shoelace knot here, but it does the job. There you can see the chain fully stressed. Just be careful not to strain your windlass mount. I know my windlass is mounted to a thick starboard material, so it's pretty tough in that regard, just not tough for pulling. Here, I'll be quiet and I'll let you watch for a bit and get the full experience.
There it goes again. Close. Getting close. Ah. Damn it.
So yeah, you can see the anchor right there, still holding onto the sandy bottom.
Ridiculous, y'all. Good. God damn it. How the could it be so stuck in the ground? Okay, we're gonna have to run over it and unstick it somehow.
I need to power the boat forward enough to unset the anchor.
Okay, completion. Now we gotta turn around and get on course.
Tune in next episode for...
Oh shit, we've got a fish! Fish on! Fish on! Fish on!